Again, Jai Sachidanand.
Good evening. Welcome everyone. My name is Mahen Gosar and I'm the Midwest chapter co-lead for Holistic Inner Science. In the daytime, I am M&A due diligence consultant at Walgreens, and let me introduce today to our holistic science expert. Swami Deepakanandji has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. He's here to give us a talk on holistic science, and he has several years of experience working as electrical engineer in cement industry. Welcome, Swami. He had an inclination to be celibate. He received self-realization through the grace of self-realized holistic scientist Sri A. M. Patel in 1983. He has pursued his dream to work selflessly to spread the message of holistic science for the upliftment of the entire human mankind. He has devoted his entire life to studying holistic science and visiting rural areas in cities in India, US and UK, Canada, Europe, Africa, Australia and New Zealand to spread the scientific understanding of life through holistic science. He is a holistic scientist practitioner and an interaction expert. Welcome again, Deepakanandji. So last time we talked was about power of speech and the art of science of communication. Today we are going to talk about happy and harmonious living. So I'd like to pass on to Swami Deepakanandji to kick off that topic and shed us some light on that.
Thank you, Mahen. Today, the situation is such everybody is seeking happiness. You see, every living being is looking for happiness. Nobody wants unhappiness. Nobody wants suffering. But if you really observe, we see the world in distress. We see everyone in trouble. If you really observe them also, we have learned that the principle of survival of the fittest.
Mhm.
And of course, yes, we feel that if I become strong, I can fight over and survive and be happy. But if you really think about it, today, are we not seeing around territorial dominance, academic dominance, professional dominance, arm wise security dominance? So there is, you can say, fight all over. And everybody wants to be number one. And in their attempt to become number one, they end up doing what not. The net outcome or the net result is like for me to become number one in any field, because in every field I want to be number one, whether it is religion, whether it is profession, whether it is any field, at home, at business, at work, I want to be number one. And this um, competition of number one has made me live my life in such a way that I end up hurting others. I want to be happy, and I have somehow designed my life to become happy by becoming number one. And somehow, everybody in every field, you see that they are competing to become number one. So the end result is like obvious. You end up fighting because when everybody wants to be number one, what is going to happen? Just think about it. Just think about it. And uh, the holistic master, the holistic scientist, in his impartial observation, he has revealed that the tragedy of this competition is what? Only one person reaches the number one, and the rest of them they slog out and end up losing the battle. So that too, if you really see, that number one criteria doesn't last long till next competition. In the next competition, because this competitions are not one and that's it, the final one. No, it keeps on taking place. So you can be number one for a few attempts, for a few times, but then someone else is going to come along and become number one. So, and at the same time, we want to be happy. We have defined our happiness by feeling that, okay, when I be number one, I'll be the most happiest person because then I have recognition. People identify me, recognize me, and they believe that I am the best. But then this thing doesn't last long. And so my happiness is not going to stay longer. So what is needed is some right understanding. And with that right understanding, I will be able to live happily myself first and whoever come across around me, he or she also becomes happy. Not only that, not only that, this concept and science of holistic science is such that it extends to every living being of the universe. But it naturally starts from the individual. And this science is there in at the core of every living being, but he or she is not aware of that. And it is only in the human form that this science can open in totality, and that individual naturally becomes instrument for benefit of one and all. And in that all, of course, humans get benefited first, and then naturally all living beings who come across humans naturally get the benefit of the goodness or the right kind of living, the natural way of living. So the holistic scientist has revealed several natural laws, and if one follows those laws, then he will be happy. The way he lives his life, he makes others also happy, and naturally everybody becomes happy. So the topic today, happy harmonious living, reveals or makes us understand that happy living relates to individual and harmonious living relates to my surrounding. So I should be happy and my surrounding also becomes happy. That's how I should be living. And that is the concept of holistic science, holistic inner science. Why it is said inner science? Because everything originates from inside. What I speak pops up inside in our mind first. What I do, what I act, it gets initiated in my mind first. And mind get inspiration from the surrounding. So what? we need to focus on if my convictions are clear and firm, then in my inside, that is my decision and my thinking, attitude wise, if that is clear and firm, then whatever surrounding circumstances I come across, my thinking would be very positive. When my thinking is positive, my attitude will be positive. My dealing outside will naturally be positive. So when this has happened to one individual and that atmosphere or that vibration spreads to others, they also will get the same positive thinking, positive vibration. So this science of holism is originating from the individual and it spreads to everyone. So we are very lucky to come across the holistic scientist and we happen to spend several years and that's how it has helped us live with that principle inside and that's how we are able to share our experience outside. So to begin with, it is very simple. We have that information, I would say, or that principle through our religious following. So every religion in its core has this holistic science. But somehow today we need that science to get revealed, to get opened outside for the benefit of one and all. It is like today's dire need, and we should try our best that this science reaches every individual so he understands that whatever religion I am following, in its core, the same principles are there. I should focus on these principles. I should live following these principles rather than sticking on to the ritualistic part of these religions. So the religions differ by their ritualistic following, but in its core, this science exists. So most fundamental thing is I don't want to hurt anyone through my thoughts, through my speech, and through my action. The moment I think like that, I decide like that, and I live my life with this conviction, with this decision, then naturally I will be a different person. However, I may come across different situations in life, but this basic principle of my life that I don't want to hurt anyone outside, how it is going to work? Because I have decided that I want to live my life with such humility, with such alertness that I don't want to hurt anyone through my thought, speech, and action. Although this looks very primary, very common, people may say that, yeah, I know, but then am I living those principles? Because unless I live those principles, it is not going to reflect in my life. I may talk, so it is said that you don't just preach, you better practice also. So, practicing part is a practical aspect of our life by living our life based on these principles. So, happy, harmonious living relates to first the individual, the way he lives his life with a principle, with a decision inside, and then that happiness naturally will spread outside by his harmonious living with everyone else, with his surrounding. And when one sees one example like this, as the principle of learning goes, as you see, so you learn. the way we have learned from the holistic master. And when we, as I live my life with that humility, with that perfection, with that principle at heart, definitely it is going to reflect in all my living. And when I come across people, because I am a social animal, I don't stay in isolation. I come across people, and when they come across me, they see that principle working live in me as a living example, and that's how the principle spreads. And this is what I need to experience that. So if I live with that principle, I don't want to hurt anyone through my thought, speech, and action. And I live with that sound mindfulness, alertness, and I'm so much watchful that I don't skip any thought, I don't skip any speech part, any expression, or any of my action which somehow end up hurting others. I see to it that they don't go uncorrected, in the sense that I am watchful. I see to it that I live with that humility, and finally I'm always correcting all the time. So that's how, when it goes out, finally it will be such that it is free from mistake. It is a process, it's a lengthy process, it's a long process, but we have to start. One can start with this basic decision: I don't want to hurt anyone through my speech, through my action, through my thoughts. So,
That's a big,
from
that's a
yeah,
huge, let me interject. That's a very big concept of not just physical violence that you want to hurt other, but also through mind and body. So
right, yes.
that's a that's something that people don't see that consciously. A lot of times when you talk about hurting, I think people we for me it comes to be physical violence. But when you say mind and mind and also through speech, that is a big area that it's often overlooked.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, that is a great point that you brought out. Uh, just want to highlight that point that you brought out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So then, to elaborate it further, when I come across individuals, I have my own mind, I have my own thinking, I have my own beliefs. So every individual has his own mind, he has his own thinking, he has his own beliefs. So if we have to coexist, if we have to live in association, if we have to live socially together, then what should be my principle? In the sense which will help me coexist, which will help me live in association in an amicable way, in a friendly way. Then another concept of holistic science reveals that what you need is adjustment. Two individuals, two heads, two minds having independent thinking. Accept it. You got to have your own thinking, you're bound to have your own belief. A wonderful revelation over here is also there, that why two different people cannot think the same way. So here the holistic revelation says like this: every individual occupy an independent space. So the revelation says like this: two individuals cannot occupy the same space at the same time. I repeat, two individuals cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So it is obvious that two individuals are bound to have different understanding, different viewpoint, different thinking. So now, if they have to coexist, if they have to live in association, if they have to live under one umbrella, which is going to happen like we are at home, we are in office, we are in our surroundings, we are in business, we are in the country, we are in the city, we are in the county. So how are we going to coexist happily, harmoniously? The only master key which will help us stay together and we will live happily is with adjustment. So the another principle of holistic living which is revealed by the master is the concept of adjust everywhere. Although it sounds so simple, but the results are profound. We cannot think because this adjustment is not just on the physical bodily level, but that adjustment gets reflected at our speech, at the level of our mind. And once that adjustment is there at the level of our mind, it gets reflected in our speech and definitely in our actions, that is, in our behavior. So, like if we take a very practical example, everyone knows this art of adjustment, but he or she adjusts only when they think it is convenient. It is surprising. Yes, it is surprising. So, uh, if one decides that no matter what, I will adjust, then I will be able to live in harmony with others. So, first of all, when I have decided I don't want to hurt anyone through my thought, speech, and action, I'm not going to send any violent vibration through thoughts, any violent expression through speech, and violent behavior through actions. So inside, I will be happy. And with my adjustment with outside people, I will be able to deal with them positively because adjustment is the key always needed. You continuously adjust your car while driving and remain in the lane. You want to avoid accident, you want to avoid clash. So that's the only way to live happily without any kind of clashes with anyone with the key of adjust everywhere. So here we want to highlight another principle of holistic science which has revealed which is revealed through this adjust everywhere. So if you adjust, you will definitely avoid clash. So the next one comes as avoid clashes. So if I have decided, I give this example which I am about to give today. We live, we go everywhere, and everywhere we come across wall. And I have noticed myself that I have never dashed with any of the wall. So I was thinking, what is that that has not made me clash or dash with any of the wall? Because I know that if I dash with the wall, I will get hurt. I will be the loser. So why should I do that? So I live in such a way that I never dashed with any wall. So if I am so much perfect in my living that I never dash with any of the walls, that means I am having some conviction about dashing with the wall so that I get hurt. But somehow I have no conviction dealing with people that if I clash, if I have difference with any individual, I would be the loser. But this holistic science has revealed this principle of avoid clashes that I have to understand that if I clash with anyone, then I am the loser because If I clash, that means something has gone out from me. And if it has gone out from me to anyone else, then for settlement, it is going to come back to me. And when it comes back to me, I'm going to get hurt. So I cannot live my life and run my life business wherein I will incur this loss of hurting myself. So I ensure that I don't hurt anyone through this principle with that conviction inside that I want to avoid clashes. So very decision inside me that I will adjust because I want to avoid clashes. This itself will make me live in such a way that I don't end up in a clash with anyone. So these two are such a wonderful thing which the master has revealed, and it needs a lot of thinking. This can be applied in every aspect of our life. If we adjust, we will avoid clash, and that's how, if I have learned to adjust everywhere, I have avoided clashes, and when I have avoided clashes, then I have learned to live happily in my life. And when I live happily, definitely others who come across me would be living with that happiness naturally. I will spread this message of happiness without telling them because my life itself will be a message of happiness and harmonious living for others. I don't have to preach that. My life will say that naturally. So, this is the second aspect of holistic living, which will help me live happily and harmoniously with everyone I come across. So, man, you can contribute now.
Yes. No, appreciate that is really uh, you laid out the two big principle and lot to digest in the first place. So I really appreciate what you're giving to the audience, what you're serving the audience right now. Uh, so at this point, I think if I have to summarize the points we have gathered is first, it starts within yourself. You have to have a mental decision made from inside, and then you have to start following those two key principles that you laid out uh, to for a happy and harmonious living. One, the master key of adjust everywhere, and second is to avoid clashes. Great. So at this point, I think we are we will like to open up for the audiences to ask any questions based on the discussion they have heard so far. So we go with Rajni Patel.
Good evening, Deepak Anandji. This is Rajnikant Patel from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I am retired and I'm author of children's book. In fact, I will talk about my second book that just came out, which is Adjust Everywhere for Happiness for the Children. This is a good introduction, what you've given me. But let me go back to your rich inner living. You alluded to competition. Now, competition is normal. We do competition everywhere we go. So how can we be happy in competition? You alluded that there's a lot of tiredness, a lot of stresses when you are bucking up for number one position. So how can we be happy in that situation?
Somehow, my understanding of number one is totally different from what is understood by the world. Somehow, I have gathered that the world is a big ocean, and to think of becoming number one, somehow I feel I may be wrong, but I feel it is a kind of madness because that medal is going to stay there for a while. It will come in the papers for a while, and then people will forget. But what am I gaining? Because if I have learned to be happy in any situation of my life, if I have learned to live in harmony with my surrounding, with people I come across, I feel without getting any number, any position, I have become number one for myself. So it is somehow a kind of madness, I say, that to compete, and I feel that competition should be positive in the sense that if when I come across a person like the way I come across um, the holistic scientist, and I saw that he remains happy, cheerful, blissful, the way he handles people, whether it is young children, whether they are old people, whether they are youth, whether they are professionals, whether they are village goers, he can deal with any individual so nicely, so happily, and everyone is so much happy with him. So that itself has motivated me that he is number one. The world doesn't know him as a holistic scientist, but the way he deals with people, the way he is himself happy and blissful. So I would like to compete with him, I would say. And that competition is not worldly. And the principle is that when I live with such humility, whatever I need for my survival, for my charity, I always get it in abundance. In abundance, because the nature is bountiful. The nature wants to give, but because the way I live my life, such that I hurt others, I create obstacles for others, the nature is going to bring obstacles in my life. The nature is going to bring unhappiness in my life. So, competition is not wrong, but it should be in its right perspective, with right understanding, with right vision, and that is there, then you'll be a great example for others.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. We can open up for another question from the audience. Please introduce yourself and we can ask a question.
Okay, Swamiji, this is Prakash Desai. I live in Houston, Texas, and I have a very simple question for you. When we speak of happy, harmonious living, are we talking about in harmony with oneself or in harmony with external nature?
Okay, number one, uh, we are all natural beings. We are all part of the nature. And when I live as an individual, happily, blissfully, without hurting anyone, then naturally I will pass that vibration outside. I'm a social being. I live with in my family. Then I'm with my family. So I have husband, there, I have wife, I have children, and all that. If I am not a householder, then I have my disciples. I have my followers. I have my students. So the way I live my life with that humility and naturally one with the nature, which is the common aspect of every living being, because every living being is part of the nature. No one has created them because man made creations are all unnatural, and every living being is natural. And every living being seeks happiness. And when I live with that humility, with that understanding, such that I don't hurt anyone, so I end up living happily. And when I live with these principles harmoniously with my surrounding, then naturally I am leading a natural life wherein I am spreading the natural vibration of positivity everywhere. And that's what the nature is doing. Whatever wrong we as humans do, the nature is working positively to bring it back to normality. And to bring it back to normality, the nature, if the damage is little, then it can bring it back faster. If the damage is more, then it takes more time. So it only depends upon the nature of damage I do to the nature, but the nature is working positively to bring it back to normality only. So if I start living my life with that normality, then I become one with the nature. So definitely it relates to the nature only.
Okay, I see what you mean, uh, because I am a part of my surroundings also.
Yes, yes,
So when I live in harmony with my surroundings, I have to live in harmony with myself.
yes.
Very good answer. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Uh, we are open for another question from the audience if there is any question around topic.
Yeah, I'll do questions. Then Gitab and do the other question. Uh, Deepak, there are happiness is everybody's desire, but if you really look around, there are a lot of negatives that's going on in our life for illness, prolonged illness, job situations,
What situation?
job situation,
Job situation.
either having a lot of big bad bosses or on the verge of being terminated, of the company being sold, and then there are home issues. So a lot of negatives going on. So how can we, in all these negativities, be still happy and have a rich inner living?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. Let me put up this way. Most of the time, like if you are a professional, you have already worked for a few years. So for those good time, you already earned. And if you have lived wisely, you would not have spent out of control. So definitely you would have some savings with you. And now that you have lost the job, you are at home. I am sure that, okay, you may not get a job suitable of your professional skill, but you will always get some job. But it is your ego which is stopping you accept certain other jobs which you feel is not suitable for my standard, for my level of education. But you know what is important in life? We have our mind, we have our body, and what is more important is we have to keep our mind busy. If you are not working, you will stay home, do nothing. You maybe end up watching television or daydreaming, and that would be detrimental for your own health and living. So you should make it a point that although, yes, there are crises, there is recession in the world, which is possible, but these are cyclic situations. They don't stay long, they don't stay forever. But during such difficult times, you should learn to handle your mind by accepting any job that you come across. It is not important how much you earn because you have earned your living. But today, what you need in these times of crisis, handle your mind. So see to it that you take up any job, even that job is for 4 or 5 hours a day. You do that job, the money is not important, but you will keep your mind occupied, and that is the best solution you have taken for yourself. And because one more thing, in this world, you develop your skill in such a way that you are always needed. Never compromise your work. But most of the time, we see that people tend to compromise for whatever reasons. For whatever reasons, they compromise their quality of work. They don't tend to deliver what they are supposed to. And then they feel that the boss is not supporting me, the boss is not giving me promotion or like that, or the company is laying me off. No, you live in such a way that you are the most needed person in the company. And still, if it happens that you are laid off, then that skill of yours will definitely bring new jobs to you. And in times of crisis, always pick up any job and keep yourself busy. And I'm sure you will get some kind of a job. But somehow we feel that that job is not of my standard, I'm not going to do. No, we are committing a big mistake. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
We have time for, thank you, that was a very good explanation. We have time for one more question or maybe two more, thing, depending. So, Geeta Ben,
Gitaben.
yeah.
Good evening, Swamiji. This is Geeta Desai from Houston. I'm retired well logging geologist.
My
Uh,
God. You are a great
I have a,
professional, looks like.
yes, sir.
You are a great professional.
Um, uh, I have a question.
Yes, please.
There are the outer living and inner living. And outer living is going so fast. And inner living, I have to deal with my inner wisdom, but there is a lag between outer and inner living. So, can you help me out with this situation?
See, that's right. Everybody come across this situation and they have to learn to accept it. But the holistic science has given a wonderful answer, solution to this situation. Whether it is fast or slow outside, whatever is happening outside is result of what has caused inside. This is the science of life. Whatever causes inside gets reflected outside as effect. And the
Yes,
time gap between the inside, the inner cause, and outside effect is reasonably long. So it's like, if you have a controller which sends a command for a change, but you don't realize the change immediately, it is frustrating. Naturally, it is frustrating. But if your command is correct, then it will affect the change eventually, however long it may take. But if your control is correct, that is, your inside is correct, then the outside will change appropriately, maybe over a period of time, but it has to bring the change. So have that conviction that what you are doing inside is correct and keep pursuing that. Don't change your decision. The moment you change the decision, your activity will go against your control, in the sense you want to do something, and if you stop doing, then that will stop the change in the nature for it to come outside. So it may take little longer, but you should not give up. The moment you give up, the nature will start working in the opposite direction. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
So never mind the world outside is whatever it is, but understand that that is the effect of that inside cause only. Because nothing happens outside without inner decision. So if you change your decision inside and be persistent on it, don't revert back. And if you remain positive and follow the decision, you don't change the decision inside, it is going to bring that change outside definitely. So here we have to develop that patience and keep watching. But in that meantime, don't change your decision. The nature has to change. It will
Yes.
take a while. Okay?
Thank. Yes, sir.
Yeah. All these negativities, what we see outside, is result of the negativities inside. So if you have started living positively inside and you get frustrated, why it's not changing? Then everything has its time. So it's like,
Yes.
let me give one good example. If you sow a seed today of mango,
Hmm.
you want the fruit right away. But a farmer knows that if I have sown a seed of mango today, it is going to take 4 to 5 years minimum to bear fruits. And if I try to do anything, like if I want to hasten this process, that's not going to happen because nature has its own time for it to bear fruits. Okay,
Yes.
so this time that nature takes, nobody can change that. So you have to wait and watch till then. Don't lose your patience, because if you lose patience, then you will start working in the other direction, which will go as a cause in the nature, and you have to bear the consequences of that.
Yes, sir.
So a person of wisdom will never lose patience. He will be persistent and keep pursuing his positivity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Great question again. We have time for one more question, I guess, since we started a little bit behind time. So open to the audience for any questions.
Deepakananji, I
Yes.
have a question. You said our main principle motto should be, I do not want to hurt anybody in through my mind, speech, and body.
Right.
Speech I can understand, body I can understand, but mind, we have, we always form opinions in different situations and different uh, interaction with people. And so mind, we always, even sometimes afterward, we say, he's not a good person or he's not a good person, something like that. So how can you relate that to what our principal motto is?
Okay. So again, here we will try to reveal and understand the way our mind works. One aspect of our mind is effect part, in the sense that on that effective part of the mind which keeps on popping thoughts, I have no control over it. So whatever opinions that pop up, I cannot change them. But I can decide today that I am going to do like this. Do you understand that?
Yes, yes.
So that is where it brings the change. Because of my previous decision to do or to believe that, to accept that, my mind has become like that and it is thinking like that. So I give you an example. If I have decided previously I'm not going to accept any negativity in the sense I'm going to fight out no matter what. So my mind thinks accordingly. It want to fight. It tells me don't leave, don't give up. You have to fight. You keep fighting. Only then you will win in the race. But then that was my previous belief, due to which my mind is thinking like that. And the way my mind thinks, naturally I live my life like that. But with this wisdom of holistic inner science, I have come to know that I cannot change my mind that way, but I can make a fresh decision today. I don't want to do that, although I keep getting those thoughts. So I don't support those thoughts, those negative thoughts, and that's how it will change eventually. Okay?
Okay. So, in other words, I think you are conveying the message that we want to repeat ourselves as many times as possible that I do not want to hurt any living being through my mind, speech, and body. Is that the
Come
message
again?
I'm
Please
getting?
come again. Please come again.
The message I'm getting is we need to repeat as much as possible that I do not want to hurt any living
Oh, yes,
being
yes,
through
yes,
the
yes.
mind, speech, and body as many times as possible.
Repeatedly till you don't get your desired results, you have to remain after that.
Okay.
Never change your decision. If you change your decision, come across obstacles and you change your decision, you will never accomplish your goal.
Well, see,
Thank you. This is a good mantra you gave us today.
A man of wisdom will never give up. He will never become impatient because he wants to achieve his goal of perfection, no matter what. He has to fight his own limitation, he has to fight his own obstacles. Then obstacles that come from outside has no value. But he has to remain persistent, has to stick on to his goal, and then only he achieves goal. Just imagine someone who has decided to earn a medal in Olympics. He is going to come across his own limitation, his own body is going to retaliate, he's going to resist. But no, he never gives up. So actually, even in their physical training, they have a lot of psychological training also. And the psychological training, they are taught that you never give up. And at times, they really instigate those uh, players, those athletes, and they want them to fight against their own limitations. They have to fight, they have to rise against their own threshold. That's how they set new world records.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
excellent. Great. So we are just about time. So I want to thank you, Swami Deepakanand for the wonderful insight into happy and harmonious living. Uh, just to quickly summarize, the world is out there. We are constantly, our surroundings are filled with a bit of a race. We are always, there is always an expectation that we have to meet, and that generates a lot of conflict and unhappiness. One of the key fundamentals that Deepakanand and the holistic scientists have proposed to to not to hurt anyone through mind, body, and speech. That is the core foundation for happy and harmonious living. We all had a great insight by following the two principles which would be, to adjust everywhere and to avoid clashes. This is such a great deep subject that we may have to keep exploring and, kind of peel the onion slowly to be able to digest so many principles that are embedded within the topic. With that, I'd like to thank you everyone. Thank you the audience for wonderful questions, and like to point out to the audiences as well as other viewers that this talk show is being recorded on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, look for HSCRF or Holistic Inner Science channel, and you'll find the recording of this as well as previous talk shows. And if you have any questions or like to join the talk show, please email us at discover@hscrf.org. We really appreciate the time, and we look forward to having you again on our next talk show, which is July 17th, Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Bain. Thank you, Rajni Bhai. Thank you, Geeta Bain. Thank you, Prakash Bhai. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Swamiji.
It's our pleasure.